That would be.
Okay, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 6:31 p.m. This is a meeting of the Advisory Committee. And first up on our agenda is we'll be having a discussion with the Council on Aging regarding their FY23 proposed budget. And I see that we have Penny Gherkin.
Lisa Dion should be here. She's just obviously a little late.
No problem. Would it be helpful if I shared on my screen your budget?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Any questions?
You know what, though? I'm going to have to ask Jenny to enable screen sharing.
I will do. Give me just a sec.
Thanks.
See, we know where the power in town government is.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing it's there.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Penny, can you see that?
Oh, yeah. No, I've got it in front of me anyhow. So, yeah.
So do you want to walk us through it?
Basically, the salaries are per the normal salary scale. And as you can see, the van drivers don't exist anymore because I don't know if you realize that we took the van drivers and the gasoline and put it into a revolving fund. What happens is we bill Mart for the van drivers and the gasoline, and they pay literally within the month. So it was just easier to get it out of the budget because it really gets charged and paid as soon as it's done. Mm-hmm. And both the wages and the salaries are just a normal increase per the town wage scale. Purchases services is the same as last year, as is the software support. I increased the building lease, the telephone, and the cable. I looked back on what the increases had been over the last 2 to 3 years, and that's pretty much what they were. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's, rather than to go in the hole, but and we left supplies as they were. And that's pretty much it.
And so gasoline is out for the same reason that the van drivers
Same reason, yeah. We put gasoline and because literally we get paid within 32 days. So there was no point in budgeting it because they just pay it automatically and they pay the full amount plus a little extra. So the town makes money on the Mart van. Yep. Not much, but a little bit. Helps cover the cover insurance.
I will open this up to any questions from any member of the advisory committee. With this Zoom thing, I have to scroll through to see if anybody's raising their hand. I don't think so. Looks like everybody is good. I will say thanks again for sharing the draft of your annual report, because when you read through it, you just realize the scope of the services that you're providing.
And also, it's only 2 people providing them.
Yeah, and also it's always a good reminder that it's not just seniors, but it's also adult children who have parents that are seniors.
And also understand that the state considers seniors anyone 60 and above. So basically, the COA represents about 22 to 23% of the citizens of the town.
Mhm.
And obviously, our budget doesn't reflect that. So we're very frugal.
Well, would anyone like it to make a motion to approve the Council on Aging budget for a bottom line of $98,092?
Motion.
I heard Omid make the motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Bob?
Aye.
Bill?
I'm recusing.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Bill, you're recusing. Craig?
Aye.
Omid?
Aye.
And I'm a yes as well. All right,
Oh,
and then
thank
just so that
you.
everybody knows, the reason that Bill recuses is that he serves on the board of the Friends of Bolton Seniors. And so just because the two organizations are sort of intermingled in some ways to avoid.
Well, just so everybody knows, the Friends of Bolton Seniors, we originally formed it many years ago because the Council on Aging can't raise money for programs, but FOBs can. And so they are basically our money raising arm when we want to do special things for the seniors.
Yeah.
And they're quite wonderful. They are incredibly supportive. So couldn't live without them.
Well, thank you for your time. Please tell Lisa and Heather, thank you for everything they do.
I will. And thank you all.
All right, have a
Enjoy
great
your
night.
evening.
Bye, Penny.
Bye.
Okay, next up, Mr. Savageau. How you
How
doing?
you doing?
Good.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, so we got the building inspector's budget.
Yep. And I can kind of scroll back up and they're all kind of clumped in the same part of the budget.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward, I would say, right, Mike?
Yeah, it doesn't get any simpler. Basically, we have salaries actually for the because of the level funding. I'm sacrificing about $1,000 of my hourly wage so that Chris Rogers, who is the new assistant, I'm giving $1,000 towards him. We had a small number in there before for Dave Kruge, who has retired from the position, and Chris Rogers is now the assistant. I've had my first grandchild 4.5 months ago, so I'm hoping to
Congrats.
take a Saturday morning off every now and then and spend a long weekend down with my daughter in Delaware.
Yeah.
So Chris has been doing a great job, and the $1,000 should carry it over for what I'm anticipating taking time off, and God forbid I get hurt or sick. And in the event that we get further into it in the year, and if it seems that Chris needs to be compensated more because if I take more time off or if I got sick, I'm assuming that we would just take it out of what I would have been paid if I'm not here. So, I mean, that's pretty straightforward as far as that budget goes.
Yep.
The plumbing and the gas inspectors line item, and as you noticed also on the vehicle maintenance that I've been given since the day I took the job about 13 years ago, that hasn't changed. That's always been the same for 13 years. It works, so I'm good with it. I mean, we're working with great people. We all work hand in hand to help everybody, and this is fine with me. But I love working for the town, and it works, so I'm happy.
All right, thanks. And then Ninotchka, looks like the 3% COLA has been added to each of these three budgets, right?
Yes, it has.
Great, thank you. All right.
For plumbing and gas, would you like to just I could touch upon that for one minute?
Yep.
So that's basically it's the stipend that they receive, and there is $150 added to each of those budgets, and that's because we had a situation last year where the wiring inspector was out. The assistant wiring inspector had to fill in for an inspection. He had to go back to the same property a couple of times, and because he had to go back more than just one inspection because of failure, it kind of they didn't have the money in the budget because that was Jim Boudry's stipend. So that was subtracted off of Jim last year, and this year we're just requesting that we put a little placeholder in there of $150 for the gas inspector and the plumbing and the wiring inspector in the event that their assistant runs into the same problem. We don't anticipate it, but if it did, it'd be nice to be able to just cover it and not worry about it.
So I'm not sure I'm seeing that reflected here. Am I missing something, Nanachka?
Oh, sorry. I think it's in that number. But I tried to access my computer and it's there's
You see a
maintenance going on.
total, from what I'm looking at, I have a total, so it'll be, for the plumbing and gas inspector, it would be 18,476 plus $150. Now that's, that was in there, as you see, in fiscal year 2022. So we have it for 2023 also. And that is the same for the wiring inspector.
So Mike, I don't know if you're looking at the one that has the COLA in it.
I don't, I might not be.
I can pull it up on my phone. Hold on.
I'm also just going to try to cross-reference something real quick while we're waiting. Because I know when Jenny provided the budget worksheets just before Christmas, those didn't have the COLA, but they may have had the $150 that you're talking about.
They did, and I would agree that it looks like this number does not include the additional 150.
Yeah. So I think, Nanachka, you correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think we could add the 150. We'd have to add it pre-COLA, right?
I think actually post-COLA, because it's just a straight 150.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a separate line item. Let me see. So 18,836 19,401. So yeah, the 19,401 has the COLA, and then so you just add $150.
Okay.
Just a straight 150. To both, to
Yeah.
plumbing and electrical.
Okay. So those should be the new bottom line numbers.
Yep, those are, yep.
Okay.
I did have a quick question, Mike. I don't know if you
Yep.
have even thought about this yet. If in fact that new apartment building starts next year, I didn't know if that would change any inspection, how we're doing our inspections. Has there been
Yeah.
any talk about that yet?
Yeah, well, what would happen there is there'd be a ton of inspections. And I would just do them. And then if I was absent, Chris would just do it. Yeah, they'll
So I
probably
didn't know
do
if maybe the people would pay an additional fee and we could use that money to pay. if there
Well,
were
okay,
extra-
so getting at that, it's my understanding that when there is a 40B, and that's right, that is a 40B,
Right.
there can be a request, and we can look into that, but my understanding is if we were to request a certain fee per inspection, the applicant may be willing, and in a lot of cases, they do pay for that. I'll give you an example. For 9 years before, and that's how I ended up in Bolton, by the way, when they did the KOA campground, and they changed it to a 40B with the pond side. So what happened was I was paid a stipend to come in for Frank as an outside agent to the town, a building commissioner as an outside agent to the town, and I was paid per inspection. And that went on for about 3 years. And then when Frank unfortunately passed away, I applied for his position, and then I received that position. But absolutely, the fee was paid separately for the 40B. So you're absolutely right. That really should be looked into for the
Yeah.
town's sake. And that wouldn't, another example rather of that is for 9 years prior to coming to Bolton, and I came to Bolton under the 40B because Frank was in my district and he kind of asked me how I was handling those type of inspections because I was an agent for 9 years while I was the full-time commissioner for Lunenburg. I also worked for the town of Grafton for 9 years, and I did all the 40B inspections for all of their 40B projects for 9 years. And they paid a separate stipend for that, separate from the building department's budget.
Okay, so I don't think
So
it'll
that should
affect
be
this
looked into.
operating budget, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we definitely should, because there's no reason why not to take that avenue for the revenue for the town and,
Yep.
to help the department and to, it's the right thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully that could be put together, but that was very good to bring that up, Nanachka.
All right, excellent.
Thanks, Nanachka. All right, any other questions about 241, 243, or 244?
I have a quick question. Hi, Mike. Can you,
Hi.
hi, can you clarify the $150? I think you said it was if there has to be like a return inspection or something like a second time out, but why is it only 150? Is it 150 per time it happens?
No, what happened was that just happens to be the number that it was when Pete Casello, he was the assistant, he's the assistant wiring inspector. So in Jim's absence, Pete took over, and where Jim has a stipend, it's like a set stipend. So when Jim came in, that money would have normally have probably come from the stipend. So there was a little confusion on that because I think maybe Jim anticipated there'd be one inspection while he was out, and there was more than one because they had to go back and re-inspect a couple of times. So it doesn't happen too often because generally Jim's available, and Pete periodically will come in, but very seldom, just like Dave did for me. Now, Chris, he's in a little bit more for me coming up because I'm trying to plan to go take time off, which I very rarely take much time off, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And so that's going to be helpful for me. But yeah, it was a one-time incident. So we're just thinking, in the event that somebody's filling in and they got to go
Right.
more than once, at least there's some money set aside if it was to occur again, and it may not.
Right. And you think 150 is sufficient if it were to happen 2 or 3 times? That's fine.
Yeah, I would think that should cover about if I'm not mistaken, that might cover 3 inspections right there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think we could probably have a motion for all 3 of these. Total budget for the building inspector, $35,652. Total for plumbing and gas, $19,551. Total for wiring, $22,641. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the building inspector, the plumbing and gas inspector, and the wiring inspector budgets.
I second.
Okay, roll call. Omid,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm yes as well. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Good to
Thanks
see
a
you.
lot, Brian, and everybody enjoy your evening.
You too. Take care.
Hi.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have library. I see Bob Zach and
Hi.
Kelly and Pam Zakansky. Hi. Who
Hello.
wants to start us off with the discussion of the library's budget?
I'll start us off if that's okay, if you can hear me okay.
Yep. And let me
Great.
know when you want me to share the screen, but otherwise
Okay.
I can just let you chat.
Great. I think just to cue things up, we had sent like a 1-pager. If you could just get that ready in a second.
Okay.
If not, I
When
can
did you
share
send that, Bob? I apologize. I might not have actually seen that.
It was a while ago. I'm happy to share it from my screen if we get that, or I can just talk to it. Maybe that's just easiest at this point.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so sorry, so just introductions. I noticed there are a couple new faces on advisory. So I think joining us tonight, we have myself from the trustees, Pam Zakansky, and Tricia Neron, I believe will be here shortly. We also have Kelly Collins, The Board of Trustees is an elected board with statutory responsibility for the library and its operation. And that gives us an opportunity to talk to advisory at least once a year about budgets. I wanted just to give a quick overview of last year's, sort of library in use, just for general interest. Like everybody else, we've been dealing with the COVID and response. In June, up until June 14th, the building itself was actually closed, and we were circulating material by curbside. On June 14th, it was opened to the public. We still were doing children's room by appointment only. We had closed the program room just under guidance from the governor. We've operated that way until November. In November, we took away the restrictions on the children's room, so appointments are no longer necessary, and we opened up the program room to groups as many as 15. Just recently, we voted as of March 1st in view of the dropping numbers statewide as well as locally, to increase that number for the program room from 15 to 30. So this is all in that one pager with Brian, which I'll send a copy of you, and you can circulate at the rest. I do want to spend a little bit of time on our operations for FY22, just to give you an update of where we are this year. And the short summary, and this should come to no surprise to anybody who pays for heating and electricity, is that we're trending over budget on both items. Electricity to date, we're about 10 to 15% over. On a $21,000 budget, that's potentially $2,000 to $3,000 over by the end of the year. Propane, we're early in the season, so it's hard to tell, but just because we haven't used very much of what we'll eventually end up using, but the indicator is that we're paying about $3.99 a gallon for propane this year versus $3.29 a gallon last year. So we're looking at potentially a 20%, assuming that the weather were the same, about a 20% higher but expenditures versus budget on a $19,000 budget, which would be about $4,000. So this is just a heads up per discussions that we've had with previous meetings with advisory. If these overpayments exist, we'll be back as we approach the end of the fiscal year to seek funding to cover this, which are too large a numbers to come out of our existing budget. Any questions on that? In that case, I guess we're ready for the main event here. So Brian, if you can just bring up our budget.
Yep. Now, Bob, keep in mind, this may look a little bit different because this has COLAs added in.
I think I have the budget. I think Nanochka had sent us the copy with COLA built in, so I think I'm prepared to talk to that.
Okay, so if any of these numbers look strange to you, just let's sort it out before we vote.
Yeah,
one
let's
of
do
the
that.
things in particular is that I just want to make sure that, well, when we get to the wages thing, I know that there was a desire to have the shelvers wage track Massachusetts minimum wage law, and I just don't know, looking at this number, whether that has been incorporated. So
yeah. So do you have the expanded view on the salary and wages? If not, I'm happy to talk to it without the expanded view.
Not in this document.
So the short story is that we've kept the same number of hours total for sort of staff and the same distribution for staff. You're right that on the shelver position, we did, per an agreement with the town, raise the wage for that to meet mass minimum wage. But we didn't change the number of hours that we're using the shelver for. And I believe that is that I have a subtotal of oops. 325, 640.
Yep, that's what we
Okay.
have.
Yeah, so that 325, 640 includes all of those things, including the step and COLA.
Yep, and the Shelver increase is in there.
Great, thanks, Nanachka.
Right. Are there any questions on the wages and salary? I'll just note in passing that actually the COLA has the biggest impact on that, on the number change from last year. The secondary impact is the step increases, which don't apply to all positions, and then almost, very, very distant third would be the Shelver increase to minimum wage.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that takes us to the line item budgets, and I'll just note that the largest one in there, which I mentioned earlier for this year, is the heat and electric at 19,000 and 22,000 approximately, respectively, outside of the book budget. And what we've done there is we're basically running a 3-year average there for those numbers, as we proposed several years ago and have not changed. So that's what those are. If you look at the other items, including purchase of services, software support, supplies, you'll see some small changes versus our budget last year. Basically, that's the result of new data and new charges. We have, in terms of increases outside of the book budget for FY23, counteracting some of those reductions, we've increased our program budget by $500 from last year, just because we're hoping that as part of the new normal, we'll be able to have programs and planning to have more programs in the FY23.
Okay.
The net out of that is that the outside of the book budget, that those line items are almost the same as they were last year.
Right.
And then that brings us to the book budget, which per Nanach's comment is a formula of the overall budget per our agreement with the network and our past agreements with advisory at 17.5%.
Right. So quick question about that.
Yeah.
Is that a change from some of the materials I think that were submitted back in December?
So when all the salaries changed, that because it's based on the whole budget, that number did increase when the salaries increased.
Yeah, but I also think, and I could be making this up, but I thought I saw a note in one of the sheets that was submitted that you were dropping down to 16% this year instead of 17.5%.
We had discussed that, Brian,
Okay.
sort of internally, but I mean, if one of the items, that just quickly, right? Sort of the book budget, materials budget continues to be sort of the core of the operations of the library. It's sort of what we provide. And if you look at some of the trends that are going on, some of the costs that we're seeing are going up as the shift in publishing, sort of go from books to ebooks and audiobooks. So we considered that, but I would not recommend that as a course for us.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to
Yep.
make sure you guys had reached a decision on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for the overview. I'd like to open it up to questions from anybody on the advisory committee. I'm scrolling through just to make sure I'm not missing any raised hands.
Okay.
Hi, Bob. I got a quick question.
Hi, Bob.
So some of these costs are decreasing. So you have heat dropping down a little from last year.
That's true by $100. And like I said, that's following a 3-year average, sort of formula. So it's not looking at that number is not looking at the at this year's numbers yet.
Shouldn't it be?
Do you think you should increase it?
Well, I mean, yeah, what we've in the discussions that we've had in the past, sort of what we said was that we didn't want to, with advisory, was that we wanted to avoid sort of getting into, sort of last year was bad, sort of next year could be the same or worse, because that tends to drive the budget up. And that what we would do is we would budget to a 3-year average, and then cover excesses or turnbacks. I mean, turnbacks always go back. But cover excesses as a special case at the end of the year. I'm willing to revisit that with advisory, but I think it's a, sort of predicting. I know Ted Kirshner, sort of at one time on the library on the advisory committee spent some significant time, sort of with modeling and projections, sort of trying to suss out that number, but it takes a fair amount of work.
Yeah, this is obviously a perfectly reasonable approach, but I think it's slightly different than what we've seen in any other department, which is just most are sort of assuming we're seeing increasing costs and we need to budget more for that.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question I would have is, does the town have sort of a philosophy of this is the right percentage? Because I don't think any of the library trustees nor the director are energy experts by any means.
I'd actually disagree with Bob on that. I think most of the budgets we've seen so far have had no increases for heat, gasoline, diesel, propane.
Okay.
To answer Pam's question, I don't think there is a town-wide philosophy. I'll say that some of the other budgets, the order of magnitude is such that it may be harder for us to rely on a end of year transfer if we come up short. Whereas I think with the library being the size that it is, it's a reasonable strategy still for this budget.
I think a 3-year average is a very reasonable approach, but you could consider increasing it to a 5-year average.
I don't think we're wed to a mechanism. I'm just telling you what we've done and how we got the number that's there.
I'm fine leaving with the 3-year average, but realize, of course, that our vendors are not going to be running a 3-year average.
Yeah, I'm okay leaving it as is. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Nanachka, anything from you?
Nope.
All right, so Bob, Zach, is the bottom line that you have 481,376?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the library?
I move we approve the library budget for what, 481,376.
I second that.
Okay, roll call. Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Omid,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Thank you. That was, Kelly, probably easier than you thought by the look on your face. Thanks for your time, Bob. Great job running through that as always.
Thank you for your attention, and we will make sure you get a copy of that one pager just for your edification, because I know.
No, so I think it went to my Gmail, so I can share it. I have it definitely.
Okay.
Before you go though, Bob, or anybody else, was there anything else not related to operating budget that the library wanted to discuss, or are you all set?
We're all set.
Okay, great. All right, so
Great, thank you.
Thank
Did I
you.
dare mention our plumbing repair?
No.
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. And so next up, we've got MIS. I saw Paul McKenzie, I think, or
Paul and
Travis.
Travis.
Oh, great.
Both of us are here.
Both of you, awesome. So thanks for joining us, gentlemen. Just for anybody that doesn't know, MIS is CM Geeks. They're the folks that basically make sure, well, it's virtually all of the computer and tech stuff in town. There are some exceptions, but you guys keep it up and running, so thank you. Would you like me to share the budget that we have?
Sure.
Okay. Does that look right to you?
Yep.
Okay. So feel free to just walk us through this.
All right. Yeah, purchase of services. So that's pretty much our fees and any warranty extensions, which we're now in a lease cycle. We don't have warranty extensions and out of scope work. So as we put new PCs in, there's a fee to that, which is all we've got forecasted for this year. We're hoping to upgrade the library. I've been dragging my feet for a couple of reasons. We're really busy and PCs are really expensive at the moment. So I'm hoping they come down. But again, we've got a little time to play. The next section, let's see, repairs. So that's if something breaks. It's a small amount of money. A UPS, the batteries fail, a UPS fails, an access point fails somewhere, we lose a switch somewhere in a building. So that's pretty much the stuff that's not under contract. It's typically small stuff. Software support, those are, it's pretty much GIS. And there's every 5 years we renew a product called Deep Freeze for the library, which is an imaging software for the patron PCs. So that when they reboot, they return back to known configuration.
So Paul, why is that going down this year?
That I think we pulled some stuff out actually. Well, the deep freeze we were not actually purchasing this year, and I believe we purchased it last year. Let me see where that is. Software support. How much did it go down? By 1350. Yeah, there's another service that we had in there last year that we didn't get charged for. I believe it either moved to the assessor's budget or we no longer take advantage of it. We've canceled it.
Okay.
Oh, GIS. We've lowered our licenses in GIS. We were able to lower our licenses. That's what it was.
Okay.
We go with the software support.
Yep.
All right. The web services. The majority in that is the town website. And then there's Gmail, which is what we use for the .biz and .com for emails. And that is also the internet expense for Comcast. So those are the 3 items in there, and domain renewals, which are very small, $95 a year. Any questions on that one?
No.
And the equipment is, again, leases. Since we've been managing Bolton, we've been going towards leases. So we are fully in a lease cycle now. So for the town of, we do not have any capital outlays. It's all leasing. What we're trying to do is we work really hard to get on a 5-year schedule so that every 5 years we turn over some leases, which allows us to refresh our equipment and keep our equipment current. The goal is to get 5 years out of the equipment. And so far we've been on cycle with that. And that's the extent of the budget. So we can dig into details.
Just a quick question about the town's contract with you. Is that on a certain year cycle? And when is that up for renewal?
So with 3 years, it was approved for 3 years. I believe FY22 will be our second year of that contract. So we've got 1 more year after that.
Okay. Open it up to questions from anybody that might have one. It's hard to argue with a budget that's going down even just a little bit.
Well, we try to spend what we need to spend. I mean, my big concern is if we get surprised with something, although most of these, it's the vendors and what they're going to do with the inflationary pressures they're under.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we rationalize these numbers as much as we could. We've talked to vendors, granted, we talked to them before, we saw the larger inflation numbers, but I'm hoping that that's, well, I don't want to use the word transient, but I'm hoping, the inflation numbers really gets behind us. I think it's a supply issue because the world's a little confused right now. And I'm hoping that just things catch up and, things flatten out. But I'm not an economist. Maybe I'm just optimistic, but
Yeah, Paul, I don't know if the DPW, Randy has got in touch with you, but I think he was looking for a giant scale printer and scanner.
Yep.
Are you? Okay.
So, I just heard about that last week. We talked about networking and how we're going to do that, work with sharing information, depending on where that scanner goes. So we've got that nailed out. There shouldn't be any additional costs. I did not know he was planning, to, purchase one, but, he's put an article out there and I support that. I think it'd be a good asset for the town.
I'm not sure. It may be in his budget. I think I heard it was.
Yeah.
It's,
that's something he planned on.
I think it's going to be it's a capital request.
Okay, sure. Not related to this budget, but don't we have one in the town hall?
Yeah, you have one. It's about 12 years old and we can't get it to work anymore because we're no longer drivers to support modern operating systems.
Okay.
So it's reached its point where it's about anchor.
Any other questions? Okay, so for a bottom line of 57,975, is there a motion to approve the MIS budget?
I motion to pass the budget.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call. Omid,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. All right, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Travis. Really appreciate
Thank you for your time.
All right, have a great evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, then I think last but not least is Conservation Commission. I see you there. Hi, Rebecca.
I'm just in the background.
How are
Brian
you?
is here as well, our
Hi,
chair.
Brian.
How are you?
For those new members, my name is Rebecca Longbaugh. I am the Bolton Conservation Agent, and Brian Berube is our chair of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you both for coming tonight. We can just dive right into the spreadsheet if you want, or if there's anything you wanted to start off with before we do that, let me know.
I think while you're pulling it up, if you wouldn't mind, Brian, if you have that accessible, Brian Boyle.
Yep.
I would like to note we do attempt and are successful at offsetting quite a lot of funding associated with maintenance of our conservation properties. We have over 2,000 acres of open space and over 47 miles of trail. So I always just like to note that our volunteers' time and efforts are very valuable to us. And we're lucky that we do have volunteers who are skilled and want to participate and help support our properties. And with that, Brian, if you would like, I can go through each of the line items if that's how you would like to approach it, or we can open it to questions on the changes in the line items. How would you prefer to approach this?
We'll just go through the line items, but quickly, I'll just share a quick story about what you just said, which is after all that, like we got so much rain this past year that I feel like there were a lot of trails, the trees had come down or whatever. So my son and I were walking through Vaughan Hill early on a Saturday morning, and then we saw Drew emerging with like a gigantic buzzsaw, and my kid was just like, "What is he doing?" He's like, "I'm doing trail maintenance." So anyway, we know that's what a value it is to have folks like that.
Yeah. We certainly appreciate that. And we appreciate when people share experiences like that because they're fun.
Yeah.
Okay. The wages have increased, and that's due to the step increase and the COLA, which Nanatka had calculated in for us. The purchase of services is typically used for ecological assessment of ponds. In particular, we're focusing on Bowers Springs, as we have noticed and received some information from an assessment of the earthen dams that is a maintenance item we'll need to address in the near future. This line item also includes consultant fees or surveys for existing conservation properties. So ones that do not have surveys already done or recorded at the Registry of Deeds, we're able to do that through the purchase of services line item. Under land, and that will be going down 450. And the reason for the changes is so that you'll see an increase in the last line item, and I will get to that.
Yep.
But we wanted to keep it level funded, so that's why you see some alterations but not increases. Sorry, back to that second land maintenance item. This is for contracted work for conservation properties specific to mowing of fields, invasive species management, and then stream channel cleanup and bank work. We typically hire an individual who has experience working on these conservation properties and in very close proximity to our wetland resource areas. Then we have training. That is training offered through MACC, an annual conference, in particular, not only with experienced Conservation Commission members, but any new, which we do have one, hopefully being appointed within the next select board meeting or two, who we would like to be able to send to these trainings that just provide a lot of information and skill sets so that the commission is better prepared and better suited to be making these decisions on various projects throughout town and various types of projects. The vernal pool study, this is vernal pool assessments and the study itself. This is weather dependent. This can only occur late winter, early spring. Again, it's weather dependent. So if we have significant ground cover with snow, it's not going to happen until later in the season. We have been able to, again, just highlighting a group of volunteers, we have been able to work with the Minuteman School to work with some of their science classes to come out and assist with that. So that's why that cost has actually gone down, or we feel comfortable pulling it down to $50.
Mm-hmm.
The advertising for legal notices, or when the Conservation Commission needs to file a notice of intent for maintenance on our own properties, which is required still, those legal notices and then the notification to abutters comes out of that line item. Supplies, typical office supplies, like I have a printer in my office, ink, lamination. We use a heavyweight paper for the trail signs that we make and are placed throughout the conservation properties. We did a significant update of those last year that's still continuing on this year. Then we have in-state travel. That's relative to site visits and travel associated with that. Site visits are anywhere from going to the conservation properties themselves that the town owns to private properties that have filed conservation or wetland permits, or follow-up site visits if there's been an issue and now we have to proceed with enforcement matters and review the site based on that. And then we have dues. Dues are associated with the Municipal Society of Massachusetts Conservation Professionals, which is MSMCP, MACC, which is the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions, and the SOASCO SISMA, which is the Sudbury, Assabet, Concord Rivers Cooperative Invasive Species Management Association. And then we have the land capital improvement that differs from land maintenance as it is specific to infrastructure. So for instance, this line item is relative to our Beaver Solutions maintenance and installation of flow devices. Then we have our equipment line, which is for land stewardship work associated with repairs, replacement of parts, fuel, or any tools and equipment that are needed to do so. Then we have the conservation fund, which is a fund for land acquisition projects specifically. I will highlight the conservation fund as that is the only item that is increasing aside from wages. Again, you'll note that it's taken from the purchase of services item and the vernal pool study line item to keep it level funded. The Conservation Commission feels very strongly about increasing the conservation fund to $1,000. Some commission members actually felt strongly about increasing it more, but they felt if we were able to level fund it, this would be a reasonable request for advisory and for this coming budget fiscal year. With that, for those who do not know, after speaking with Ninotchka, we realized that in order to fund the conservation fund, we can allocate funds each year from this particular line item. And again, this can be only used for land acquisition projects. It can be used towards appraisals or anything associated with that land acquisition, though, in terms of due diligence.
So just pausing on that point for a minute, do you know offhand where the conservation fund balance stands right now?
Zero.
I think it's close to zero. So we just utilized the majority of the funds, if not all of the funds, towards the Taggart land acquisition.
It might have like $800 in it or something like that.
Okay. And so given that, yeah, there's like less than $1,000 in there now.
Yep.
My next question was gonna be like, do you have your eyes on anything specific? But probably not. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes and no. So from the open space and recreation plan and some of our other townwide plans, along with the master plan coming up, these inform the decisions going forward. So when a land acquisition opportunity arises, for instance, the Taggart land was not anticipated. Luckily, we did have time and the property owner was willing to delay and work with the town. That's not always the circumstance. I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable this evening saying these are the 3 exact properties, but I can definitely highlight that it is relative to properties that we've already highlighted through the open space and recreation plan, a recent Apple Country project, and other projects going forward. I'm sure we'll highlight more.
Yeah.
But certainly we can't be purchasing the land or even doing significant due diligence with even $1,800 if this were to be approved. So we just are trying to find a way to allocate funds in a reasonable manner. But also we've seen a significant increase in use of open spaces during the pandemic, and now it's being sustained now that we're hopefully coming out of it. And so the commission feels that there's even more of a significant interest in time to be contributing to this fund in particular.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions in general about this budget as presented excellently by Rebecca?
Thanks.
So what did we use for the Taggart fund?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
How much did we use for the Taggart purchase?
I believe we used 31,000 or 30,000.
I think it was
So
32.5.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was thinking somewhere in the neighborhood. So are we to believe that it'll be 30 years before another Taggart property type of thing comes up?
No, it will happen much sooner than that. And I would hope another way to build the fund is to accept donations, but we can't advertise for donations. So that's kind of a catch-22 situation, not to speak informally about that. But certainly these acquisition projects are planning from the planning aspect, it's long-term planning, but when they come up quickly. And normally I'd say the Taggart acquisition project was a unique circumstance where the property owner was very willing to work with the town in the timeline, where typically it's, are you interested? No, you're not. If there's no right of first refusal, I can get more money from a developer or someone else who I don't need to wait a year and a half or 2 years for. So that's unfortunately typically the truth of the matter.
So I know I'm not supposed to say this, but would it not be wise to have more money going toward the conservation fund?
It would be very wise, and I would not be surprised, just to be transparent, if the commission next year were to suggest in additional funding going towards that. But for this year, we did want to make this request, increasing remaining level funded, just in preparation, but noting that that is most likely going to be an ask in the future. That's a good point.
Okay.
Could I just make a comment on that? So I think if the commission does end up having that kind of a discussion next year, it would be good to maybe invite whoever the liaison happens to be to come to that, because I think it's just really helpful to understand like how they're thinking about it, just to get more context. And also this question of, if you're restricted from raising money as a town entity, but there may be other entities within town that can help, like just trying to understand all of that. And I think we could maybe do some of that before getting to this point next year, if there's going to be an increase.
I agree with that, Ryan.
I assume there's always the option for a special town meeting if something exceptional comes up.
Correct.
Any other questions? Okay, well, so for a bottom line of $83,710, is there a motion to approve the Conservation Commission budget?
I move we approve the Conservation Commission budget of $83,710.
I second.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Omid,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hope you have a great rest of the evening, and we appreciate it.
Yep, we'll be wrapping up soon, I think. All right, have a good night.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Take care. All right, so we do have some minutes that Bob sent out that we could approve. Just give me 1 second. Thanks for these, Bob.
Sure.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I move we approve the minutes as submitted.
I second that.
Okay, roll call. Omid,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Okay, two other things before we go. Just a reminder that we are going to meet next Tuesday at 6:30. We have a pretty light agenda. I think it's mostly EDC and planning board. And then we'll add the Board of Health and Nursing budgets as well. And then, so that meeting is at 6:30 next Tuesday. Then on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, we have the meeting with the superintendent and the other finance committees from Stowe and Lancaster. And just so that you all know, so the way, basically the superintendent invited the chairs of each FinCom to a meeting a couple weeks ago. And in that meeting, basically proposed that this year Bolton could host this meeting. So that's our advisory committee. So I'll be like calling the meeting to order. But obviously I'm not chair of Stowe or Lancaster. But what I'm going to try to do is make it so that finance committee members can ask any questions that they might have. I'm guessing that we'll probably have other members of the public who might attend that meeting. And I want to make a little bit of time for public comment and public questions, but I don't want it to get sidetracked by that. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I want to make sure we're all on the same page about how to manage that.
So is this the meeting where they're presenting to all, like what they would normally do if they were just coming to us to present their budget? It's just to everybody, or is this
Yeah.
a separate?
That's my understanding. Jenny, I see you have a hand raised.
Yes, I'm looking at the calendar and it looks like the next meeting is the 25th because I believe planning board wasn't able to come next week.
Okay.
And I know that falls into school vacation week.
Sorry, you're saying,
So next week, planning board was not able to come, which is
right,
why
so
we kept
you mean the 22nd?
let me, hang on, I have two windows open. Let me just open it up again. Oh, where did I just have it? Oops. Bear with me for a sec.
Because Tuesday is the 22nd.
So today's the 8th. And then our next meeting is Tuesday, the 25th. Is that a wrong date?
It's the 22nd. Because a week from today is the 15th. And then
it is a typo on the calendar, but yes, it's the 22nd. Is the next meeting that we have. We have Economic Development Committee and Planning Board.
Okay.
And they would not be ready earlier than that. I had checked with Valerie, and because of the timing of their meetings, they couldn't do it earlier.
That's fine.
So I guess my question for you is, if you're not going to have a quorum that day, we would be looking at moving them to March 8th.
Well, we have a quorum here tonight. Is there anybody here tonight that can't come on Tuesday, the 22nd? So I think we'll have a quorum on the 22nd. And then obviously, Jenny, you're not talking about the 16th. The 16th, we're good to go.
The 16th is fine. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Omid, your hand's up.
For the school committee, are they gonna send like what they want to talk about, like their plan to us so we can like see if we have questions during the meeting that we can bring up, or send questions through you so they're kind of aware of what some of the issues, so we're not getting like I don't knows, or just because they have never been good with sharing information or anything else beforehand.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's a good idea.
I will actually email them after this meeting and just say, is there anything that you can share in advance of the meeting on Wednesday so that we all have a chance to read through it? There are drafts, publicly available drafts of their budget on the district's website, but I'm guessing that what we're going to see next Wednesday will be different from the drafts that are there publicly. So yeah, I'll ask. Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, and the second reason for it is because their budget is so big. We're not going to be able to like, not reading it, reviewing it beforehand, we won't be able to like do anything about it other than just questions that are like, might be not as detailed and stuff to them. So like seeing such a big budget is a lot better off beforehand than,
Yep.
Right.
And the other thing, and I don't know if the superintendent is going to get into this, but we're still, our meeting with the superintendent is still about a month in advance of the school committee's budget hearing, maybe 3 weeks in advance of the school committee's budget hearing. So he'll probably say that there may be a couple things that change between Wednesday and the actual budget hearing. But if we don't get all of our questions answered next Wednesday, we do still have some more time.
Okay. Yeah, I understand. I just want to be like, have it's a big budget. It's not something I like, but I can't be like listening and reading it, trying to comprehend all this, especially if all 3 towns are going to be there. It's not just going to be like 5 or 6 of us. It's going to be around 20 people asking questions, trying to keep up with everything and reading it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Totally.
I would think they could at least share what you said was publicly available, like that even, I'm sure it's obviously going to change, but just the general bones might be available now.
Brian, what do you think our role in this discussion should be? Like, we really don't have much to say about, or we can't really influence the line items in the budget. Is that correct?
Correct. So when we vote, it's basically an up or down yes to the assessment or no, we recommend against it. But I think that we can ask questions to try to get more comfortable with the validity of the number that they're landing at. So, and I don't know what it's going to be. You know, maybe it's going to be I have no idea what it's going to be, but I think it's fair for us. I will tell you that I've already communicated multiple times with the superintendent about that dynamic we've talked about in the past, how even like a 4% increase in the assessment completely cannibalizes our Prop 2.5 new growth. So I've told them that multiple times, but I think it's fair for everybody on the committee to kind of reiterate that and to just say, like, every time our assessment is going up by this percentage, it means that our ability to grow any other department is very, very constrained. I don't know, Craig, what do you think?
I think it'll be an interesting discussion on Wednesday.
You could always ask about staffing versus enrollment. Just a general, I know you can't talk specific staffing, but you know, if enrollment's decreasing, is staffing staying the same? That'd be one of my questions.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're always in this situation at the end of the year where we make a recommendation on the school budget, but the only recourse the town has is to accept or reject the entire town budget, including the school budget.
Correct.
And 2 towns have to do it. Even if we did it in Lancaster and Stowe, well, Stowe probably would, but say Lancaster and Bolton did not, it would have to go back to them and they would have to, they don't have to change it, but they have to revisit it and then it would come back to us. And
right. But it's very painful for the town, right? Because
yes, yeah, we'd have to work off a 1/12 budget while we figured it out.
Right.
I assume the school doesn't know anything significant about the new 40B development.
I don't know what they know.
Might be good if
it shouldn't impact that budget though, because that's not gonna.
Sure, not for this year.
Not this year or 23, I think, because like, I'm sorry, but I don't think this project moved that quickly.
I don't think so either.
I think it may be on the radar of the high school building committee because they have to think a little bit longer term.
Yep.
All right. Anything else before there's a motion to adjourn?
Yes, just one more thing. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. No.
If just because we're on the school, can we recommend the audit committee to do audits on certain lines if we don't like it? Are the school gonna work with them to provide those documentation? Because I understand, like, you know, we're the advisory committee, we don't have the audit responsibility, it's audit committees. Are we still fighting that battle, or that one was resolved?
So the audit advisory committee exists and I think recently was reconstituted. So I don't think they've met yet this year, but they're the ones with the authority to do what you're suggesting.
Or is that like, do we have authority to like provide recommendation for audit to them?
I don't think so.
No.
All right.
Anything else? All right. Craig, want to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I move we adjourn.
I'll
I
second it.
second.
All right, I'm not doing a roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Nanachka, as always. Thank you, Jenny.
No problem.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Have a
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.